Welcome to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. And now your host, Tim Johnson.
As a result of COVID-19, global demand for oil and gas have plummeted and the prices have followed. That's big news and bad news for Louisiana's economy. We'll talk all things oil and gas when Gifford Briggs, president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, joins us on this edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Louisiana businesses, by partnering with your local community and technical college foundation, you're guaranteed a skilled, highly competent workforce, homegrown talent, trained specifically to meet your needs, whatever those needs are. Visit this website to learn more about how to partner with your local Louisiana Community and Technical College Foundation. To better prepare for tomorrow, become a partner today.
At Optimal, we understand what's at stake during your projects. That's why we value integrity, trust, and expertise. We retain proven and experienced craftsmen, and with multiple locations, we can execute hundreds of customized project solutions across the country, so you stay ahead of schedule and under budget. At Optimal, you come first, plain and simple. We have your back, and we always deliver. Experience the Optimal difference.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
For 8 seconds in the arena before an afternoon in the field. For a promise to students that honors success in the classroom. For championships earned on the bayou. For innovators committed to reclaiming our coastline. The universities of Louisiana. For your future. For our future.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Gifford Briggs, president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, is our guest. Buddy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're glad you're here because there's a lot to talk about. Oil and gas, such a critically important part of Louisiana's economy. And the industry, quite frankly, is struggling. So let's start with an overview of LOGA, the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association. Talk to us about its mission, its membership, its leadership, the organization as a whole.
Sure. Well, LOGA, Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, has been around since 1992, and it was founded by our last president, Don Briggs, who also happens to be my father, a great man that realized that there was a need for the independent sector of the oil and gas industry, the mom and pops, the companies that make up the majority of our workforce in Louisiana. They needed a voice. So he came to Baton Rouge with some support of a couple of his friends just to fight on one particular issue that was going on, with a commitment to do it for 6 months. And he left after 27 years of working with the industry and representing it. Our organization is made up broadly of members, and some of those are large independents like Chesapeake. Some of them are small mom and pop shops that produce, maybe 1 barrel of oil, or just have, 2 employees that happen to have a pipe yard. And across the board, really the backbone of our industry, and we have about 450 companies that are members right now, over 1,200 members, and a very small but very aggressive team that advocates on behalf of our members.
So some of our viewers may be familiar with what is referred to as LMOGA, Louisiana Mid-Continent Oil and Gas. The difference between LOGA and LMOGA is, as you mentioned, you represent some of the smaller guys. While there may be some overlap in the membership, primarily they're the bigger guys, the more global type companies. You guys are the smaller, many Louisiana-based type organizations. That's the primary.
Right, that's correct. And the majors played a major role in production of oil and gas in Louisiana decades ago. They've primarily moved on to the refining space in Louisiana today. And so the overwhelming majority of the oil and natural gas that's produced here in this state are done by the independents and the people that we represent.
Talk, Gifford, specifically about the overall economic impact of oil and gas in Louisiana. Now, if you're living and breathing in this state, and you've been in this state for any amount of time, you recognize clearly that it is one of, if not the major driver of Louisiana's economy and, quite frankly, of Louisiana's tax base. Discuss that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the oil and gas industry has been a major part, and while the percentage of the budget that we used to be 50% of the budget of the state
in terms of tax revenue.
In terms of tax revenue,
right.
We're still a large portion of that. We still put 500, 600, 700 million in direct revenue and mineral income. We support directly about 35,000 jobs, $3 billion in wages, the highest average weekly salaried industry in the state. But then when you magnify our impact and the way that those dollars roll over, and when you're down in Houma, when if someone comes in from offshore and they go to the restaurants and they go to the bars and they get their clothes dry cleaned, and then they charter boat on the weekends and go fishing, the impact rolls over, and it's been estimated by some that the industry's impact across the state is around $7 billion in economic impact.
Annually, which is just as huge. Now, one of the things, and you mentioned that the oil and gas industry has gone from, I can remember back in the 80s when it produced about 50% of the overall tax revenue that the state took in, to something lower than that. And part of that is due to the fact that Louisiana has worked pretty hard over the last 25 or 30 years to diversify its economy. But there is no question but that oil and gas is still a critical driver. Talk about it from a global perspective as well, because Louisiana doesn't just produce energy for Louisiana. You think about the amount of energy that comes through our coastline and our pipelines, you think about the refineries that are here, you think about all of that. We are responsible for energy around the world.
We've long referred to Louisiana as the energy state. We believe that our state and the role that we play in energy from a national security standpoint, from a global standpoint, we should be one of the most important states for our country to protect. We import oil through Loop down in South Louisiana. That comes in and we refine that, and it goes all over the country. We're now exporting LNG all over the world with Cheniere and other projects that are sending natural gas to countries across the globe. We're exporting oil, thanks to Congressman Bustani's efforts to be able to send oil across the place. And we're a net energy exporter, and all of that is flowing through Louisiana, through our refineries, through our pipelines, through our ports. And it just, we play such a critical role in the energy economy globally and for our country. I think it's often overlooked of the true value that Louisiana has for our country.
You mentioned LNG, you mentioned oil and gas exports. Now we're doing, I think I saw as we tape here on Tuesday, I just saw this morning that Cheniere is adding a 6th train to its LNG facility at Sabine Pass in Louisiana. All of that is critically important, and a lot of that has been driven by advanced and enhanced oil recovery, fracking. Got about a minute left here, so give us about 45 seconds on fracking and its impact on the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, look, hydraulic fracturing has been around for a long time. What the big advance is adding horizontal drilling, where we can go down 10,000 feet, 2 miles below the Earth's surface, take a right turn, a 90-degree turn, go out 2 more miles. And so instead of having the opportunity to produce 200 feet of rock, we're able to produce 10,000 feet. And that has allowed us to tap reserves that we didn't know were possible, like the Haynesville Shale, like the Permian Basin, the Eagleford, the Marcellus, all across the country. And all of that energy comes down to Louisiana.
It has made the United States and Louisiana now, as you said, net exporters of energy. Let's take a break. We come back, I want to get into the prices. I want to get into the global demand and how it has just shrunk due to COVID-19. We're visiting with Gifford Briggs. He's the president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Since 1919, we've designed and constructed hundreds of industrial plants, roads, ships, dams, and executed some of the most complex jobs in the world. In fact, our quality and dependability are legendary. Today, the legend continues as Brown & Root delivers engineering, construction, maintenance, and industrial specialty services throughout the U.S. and the world from our headquarters here in Louisiana. We are Brown & Root.
We are united in battle to defeat a microscopic enemy. Manufacturing chemicals that safeguard lives. Refining essential fuels. Delivering in a world of uncertainty. Our creative energy is the force helping to keep families, the community, and each other safe. Together, we are Shell, the rhythm of Louisiana.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging time.
It's about doing the right thing for our customers.
We're right there with you. Gulf Coast Bank is invested in technology with a local touch, a smart way to manage your money and your time. With our mobile banking app, you can make deposits, check balances, transfer money, pay bills, and more. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you. Member FDIC. Message and data rates may apply.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Gifford Briggs, president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, is our guest. So we had this situation from 2008 to 2014 where oil prices spiked. The industry was doing great. We got over $100 a barrel, while gasoline prices were reflective of the price of a barrel of oil. It was stimulating our economy, and our producers were doing well. 2015, the bottom started to fall out. We lost thousands of jobs in the Acadiana area, in Houma, Thibodaux, down in Morgan City, critical to our economy. Over the few years, last year or so, we've seen oil prices begin to inch back up, and then this pandemic hits. Global demand for oil and gas plummet. The Saudis and OPEC, the Russians, get into a battle, and they start flooding the market, and so the supply was far outstretching the demand. It's had a major impact. It got to the point where just a week or so ago, oil was actually trading at negative $35 a barrel. Unheard of. I've never seen anything like it. How bad is it?
I mean, it's bad. You know, that the day when oil went to negative $37, a 300% drop in the value of the price of a barrel of oil in just that one day. If we go back to January when oil was at $60 and industry was comfortable and gasoline prices weren't too high and there was some stability, we were looking at $57 for Louisiana's budget, and we had surpluses and everything was going good. And you know, down to $20, and you're looking at a 66% decrease in the value of your product. And I try to share that with people to wrap their head around it and say, well, you know, what if all of a sudden you woke up and the value of your home had decreased by 2/3, or you know, if you're a car dealer and you're out there on your lot and you wake up one day and you go outside and all of a sudden every car has been slashed by the selling price has been slashed by 2/3. Like, it's just it's unheard of. And you know, we're doing the best that we can to try and adapt to a situation that's well beyond our control or anyone else's. And you know, Saudi Arabia and Russia, and they get in this war and they're going to flood the world's the market with oil to crush U.S. producers. And right behind that, you know, we've got COVID-19, and we shut down the global economy, and we've seen demand fall by as much as 30 million barrels per day. It's tough, and so you've got producers. We just finished a survey of our members. Four out of 5 of them are shutting production in already. 23% of the workforce is being laid off, and companies are doing everything they can to try and survive. But this is a crisis worse than what many saw in the 1980s.
It really is significant, and you know, when we see, as you mentioned, oil trading at negative $37 a barrel, it's basically because all of our storage capacity is full. And we've got all this excess demand, and there's no place to put it, basically. So you guys are working on a couple of initiatives. One is to ask the state maybe for some severance tax relief because local producers pay to the state a severance tax. You're looking at maybe some relief on some of these offshore leases from the federal government. Talk about, Gifford, how we begin to climb out of this as we sit here and tape on Tuesday. You and I talked before we started. I think West Texas Intermediate's up to about $24.50 a barrel, and Brent is up to about $30 a barrel, maybe $30.50 a barrel. So the price is slowly coming back, and we hope it will continue to come back as the stay-at-home orders are relieved and people go back to work and demand increases. But talk about some of the things you guys are working on legislatively and politically to help the industry.
Sure. Well, most important, first one, we just got to get the economy. Like globally, we've got to get people moving again. There's no policies that can offset a decrease in demand by 30 million barrels per day. You just can't do it. And so market forces are beginning to take their place. So we've reached out and looked at what can we do from a regulatory standpoint, a legal standpoint, and a financial standpoint of looking at a three-legged stool to provide relief to industry. And the two that our members have indicated to us that are the most important is providing severance tax relief and providing a temporary suspension of severance taxes when the price of oil is below a certain amount. The bill moved out of committee yesterday on Monday. When oil is below $30, there'd be an 80% reduction in the severance tax rate. And then providing legal relief. We've got these government-sponsored coastal lawsuits that are going on where you got 214 companies that are spending thousands of dollars every month defending lawsuits against the government that has a remedy that doesn't include lawsuits to be able to address the issues that have been identified in the suits. And so we can provide relief by stopping those lawsuits today. Those companies can save those dollars and use it to make payroll, which is what we're talking about everywhere. We're talking about saving people's jobs. We're talking about keeping people working. And if our companies weren't fighting all these lawsuits, they would be able to have a better financial control to maintain payroll. And those are the two things. And at the federal level, which is a different animal altogether, the Gulf of Mexico for Louisiana provides an incredible resource for work. If you look at the Houma region, that entire region is generally based off of the Gulf of Mexico and providing services for the Gulf of Mexico. And so we're looking for relief from royalties in the Gulf of Mexico so we can stop wells from being shut in the Gulf, and we can keep that Houma workforce moving.
So as you mentioned, it really is a three-legged approach in terms of how you're trying to deal with this overall. And it is critical that you begin to see some relief. So I think it's very good news that you report that yesterday, Monday, as we tape here on Tuesday, that the state government is looking at that severance tax relief below $30 a barrel. We'll see how these other things go. I want to take a break and I want to come back and I want to talk a little bit more about the industry's competitiveness going forward and a little bit more in depth about these legacy lawsuits that are so critical for the industry as well. We're visiting with Gifford Briggs. He's the president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, and you're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Welcome to Southwest Louisiana. 5 parishes working hand in hand to provide economic development, opportunity, and quality of life. $43 billion in projects underway, $65 billion in the pipeline, 18,000 construction workers, and 18,000 permanent jobs. It's all here. Welcome to Opportunity, the Southwest Louisiana Alliance.
For more than 25 years, the TJC Group has been helping industry communicate and build relationships with communities, elected officials, and governmental agencies. We are the leading firm in the U.S. for the development, management, and facilitation of industry-based community advisory panels.
Whether you're building a new facility or you manage an existing business, let us put our community and governmental relations experience to work for you.
The TJC Group, facilitating solutions for business and industry.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Gifford Briggs of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association is our guest. Gifford, in the last segment, we talked about the situation that the industry finds itself in, and we talked about the relief that you were seeking. Severance tax relief looks like that might be on the way. Relief from some of these legacy lawsuits that, from a litigious standpoint, are crippling our industry, and then maybe some offshore royalty relief as well. I want to go back to these lawsuits because this has been something that has plagued us even while prices were good. Look, anybody that's come here and done intentional damage should pay for what they've done. But the oil companies were invited here. They were permitted here. They have followed the permits that they were given by the state. They have been more than willing to participate in the repair of our coast and have donated millions of dollars to that cause. I'm not sure how these lawsuits are helping anyone. Let's go into a little bit of depth there.
Well, because they're not helping anyone. They're not helping our coast. They're not helping anyone. You know, you've got parish governments that, in many ways, like Plaquemines Parish, who 1 out of every $2 they get comes from the oil and gas industry, that have been coerced by a group of lawyers to file lawsuits against the oil and gas industry for permits that the state gave us in the 1980s that they somehow now believe that we didn't comply with. And instead of filing a complaint with the state, asking the state to take a look at it, the answer is lawsuits. And in Louisiana, as you well know, a lot of times the answer is, the first answer is always lawsuits instead of looking for another solution. And you know, when you start having government come after you, as an industry, regardless of what it is, it sends a very loud message that you're not welcome here anymore. You're not wanted here anymore. And for parishes like Terrebonne and Lafourche, who have resisted the call to file lawsuits, who understand and appreciate how important the oil and gas industry are, unfortunately, you know, they're getting impacted by these lawsuits because the boardrooms, the investors, the legal counsels for companies, when they're making decisions on where to invest hundreds of millions of dollars to drill and explore for oil and natural gas, when we have some of the greatest rocks and geology that there is in the country, they look at Louisiana and they say, next. They put an X over Louisiana and say, I'm not going there to get sued. You've got the government coming after you. We're not going to invest there. We're going to go to Texas. We're going to go to New Mexico. We're going to go to North Dakota. We're going to go, you know, California.
Places where we feel more welcome, right? It's a human instinct.
Absolutely. And look, if you have an opportunity to invest in any business, I can invest money here and get this return, or I can go and get this return and get sued. You're going to opt to go to the place where you don't get sued. And look, we've had legacy lawsuits that have been plaguing our industry since 2003, which those are private landowner suits, and you know, certainly we've got issues with those. But again, when you have elected governments that are coming after your industry, and in these cases, local governments trying to sue for state permits, it creates uncertainty. We don't even know where we're supposed to go. We go to the state, we get a permit. They say we've complied with it. A decade later, local government says, we don't think you complied with it, so we're going to sue you. And that level of uncertainty is the last thing that companies want whenever they're investing millions of dollars.
Gifford, I have a really good friend who went to high school with me in a little rural place in the middle of the state in Pine Prairie, and he went on to LSU, got his petroleum engineering degree, got into the oil industry, actually bought an oil company himself, took it public, grew it, but has lived in Houston for the last 25 years or so, and he's operated his business from Houston. And he and I have regular conversations about the competitive nature of the industry and how Texas seems to be doing so much better. And he points directly to the litigious nature of our state. And he says, Tim, I'm not coming to Louisiana to be sued. He said exactly what you said. If I'm going to invest millions and millions of dollars and I'm going to look for return, I'm going to do it in a business-friendly environment. Now, I have to be responsible. I have to take care of the environment, but it's too risky to come to Louisiana today. And Texas is killing our industry from a competitive standpoint.
Absolutely. And we saw the crash in the 80s, and we lost a lot of companies' headquarters from New Orleans that moved over to Texas, and we started not being competitive. And now we've got this legal climate. We've got the highest severance tax rate on oil in the nation. We've got lawsuits everywhere you look against the industry. We have the highest auto insurance rates in the country. I mean, it seems that everywhere we're turning right now, we are not as competitive as other states. And you know, we've got to take steps to address that. And you know, there's a call for tort reform broadly, and a lot of it's focused on auto insurance. A lot of it's focused, you know, on the oil and gas industry, because we have to choose. We have to make a choice. Texas made a choice. 25 years ago, they made a choice and said, we're not going to let, you know, lawsuits and a legal climate destroy our economy. And for 25 years, they've been continually working on aggressive legal and tort reform in their state, and they are being rewarded tremendously for it.
We got about a minute or so left here in the show. I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball. Where is all of this headed?
You know, the oil and gas industry, we're resilient, most importantly. We've dealt with ups and downs before. Oil's not going away. We're not going to stop driving cars. We're not going to start refining gasoline. The PPE masks that everyone's talking about right now, they're all made from oil and hydrocarbons, and so we're not going away. This may be a slower, longer recovery, however long it takes for the country, the globe, to feel good about the economy again, so that they can, you know, feel good about getting on airplanes and going on cruise ships and going to LSU football games with hundreds of thousands of people. And the sooner we can get there, the industry is going to be bound, the demand is going to be bound, and we'll be here to be part of Louisiana's recovery.
It has been such a critical part of our state and our nation's economy historically. And it remains critically important in terms of tax revenue and income and jobs. Let's hope that the demand comes back and that the industry starts to rebound, just as you say, and that we're smart enough as a state to begin to look at some relief so that we can help expedite that return. Gifford, Briggs, Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, man, thanks for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Give our best to all your members, man. Tell them to hang in there.
We'll do that. Thank you.
That's a wrap, guys. Stay safe and healthy, and join us next week at this very same time for another edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.